University of Lincoln. Sue is her time. Okay, let's welcome her. Yes.
Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon as it is now. Can I just start by introducing my colleague? This is Karen Crawford. Karen is a social work educator at the University of Lincoln in the UK. I'm Sue Watling. I'm a teaching and learning coordinator, but I'm also a learning technologist, and this gives me the role of being a bridge. So I'm like a bridge between the technology and pedagogy, between the virtual learning environments and the academic staff. And this presentation is also about a bridge. It's about being a bridge between technology and the social work service user. And what we're going to talk about is pre-research rather than post-research. We've done some contextual work and we've done some literature work. We're now looking to develop a research strategy, and this presentation covers some of the questions that we're going to be asking.
Get a little closer to the microphone.
Sorry?
Get a little closer to the microphone.
Everybody always says I'm not loud enough. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, I'll try and stand still. So firstly, a definition of what we mean when we talk about digital exclusion or digital divides in our context. And for us, this is about not having access to the internet. It's about wanting to go online, but being denied opportunities for digital participation. We're living in a digital information society, but the more we're using the internet to communicate and to access information, then the more we're excluding those for whom digital access is denied. And our research is about making that digital exclusion more visible and the potential implications of non-participation for the social work agenda. And as I'm sure you're all aware, digital exclusion is international, and national plans for digital participation in both the East and the West, and they both identify similar categories of exclusion. And there's a clear link being made between social exclusion and digital exclusion. But what's less clear is the potential implications of this for the social work agenda. And social work's about promoting equality of opportunity. So one of the questions that we're asking is should it also be about promoting access, and confidence and competence in digital technology? And I'm sure with the audience here, you don't need me to tell you what some of the benefits are of digital exclusion, but it can still be a useful exercise to think about being disconnected from the internet, disconnected from your mobile phone for, say, a month. And think about everything that you wouldn't be able to do. Think about all the areas that you couldn't access, about Amazon and eBay and YouTube and Facebook and Google, the 5 great internet giants. And I think the greatest of these is Google, because this is what's become synonymous with instant access to information, but that access is not yet equitable. So some of the realities of digital exclusion. So as access to information communication is becoming increasingly digitised, so the digital divides are widening. And there's no such thing as a single digital divide, but one area I'm particularly interested in is the users of assistive technology, because these are also often social work service users as well. And again, you'll be familiar with the fact that the advantage of digital data is its flexibility. It can be made available in multiple formats. So we can have text-to-speech and we can have speech-to-text. But the cost of assistive technologies can be prohibitive, as can the cost of going online and the cost of the ongoing training and support. And even if the costs and the requirements are met, then I know and I see from my work with visual impairment that there's still the problem with the digital data itself, because if it's not designed following inclusive practice guidelines that supports assistive technology and supports individual choice in the way that people use their computers, then even with all the prerequisites in place, access will continue to be denied. So some of the implications of digital exclusion. The social work agenda is underpinned by anti-oppressive practice and the social model of disability, and this recognises that barriers to access are put in place by society. So some of the questions that we'll be asking include, if digital equity is key to social equity, then should we be looking at a social model of digital disability? And do service users have the right to equal participation in the digital landscape? And if they do, then should digital inclusion be integral to the social work agenda? Now, there's a lot of evidence of digital exclusion, but I've picked just one example here. In the UK, there is growing recognition that the technology can support social inclusion. And we have the pilot projects of the Common Assessment Framework in adult services. And this includes a range of technological solutions that are aimed at increasing user participation. And some of these include electronic self-assessment, electronic support plans, and citizen web portals. But the documentation that accompanies these says nothing about how equity of access is going to be ensured for all service users. So again, looking at the social work base, it's global concern for social equity. And there's evidence that the social work profession is making greater use of digital environments. So one of our questions is, does this mean that supporting social users and their carers in ensuring digital access, training and support is also key to ensuring social equity and justice? So we'll be asking, is digital access becoming a fundamental social need in contemporary society? And for those who agree that it is, I'd suggest that from my own work with visual impairments, that we've still got an awful long way to go. So unlike quite a lot of contemporary research into digital exclusions, which is largely quantitative in nature, our research will be more qualitative. We're going to be using interviews and focus groups to investigate the reality of digital exclusion, in particular for users of assistive technologies. We're going to focus on service users, in particular those with visual impairments. And again, because the flexibility of digital data, that it can be made available in these multiple formats, that we can have text-to-speech and we can have speech-to-text, it means that the access is possible. And this user group, the group with visual impairment, is arguably one of the groups that's got the most gain from digital participation. I'm going to set it against the background of disability discrimination legislation and international standards for web accessibility. So we're going to look at the relationship between assistive technologies and inclusive practices. We're going to be gathering narratives of exclusion, and we're going to be investigating the implications of that exclusion for the social work agenda. So just to pull the points together in conclusion, from the days of the printing press, from Gutenberg right up to Google, access is continuing to be denied, in particular to people using assistive technologies and people with visual impairments. So we've got an increasingly digital landscape. So this digital exclusion is an inequity, and it needs to be highlighted and it needs to be managed. And if we're following, if we're subscribing to a social model of disability, one that says that barriers to access are socially constructed, and if digital data can be made available in alternative formats, but if this is not happening, then, and if there's no technical need for it, then the barriers to access are being socially constructed, and this inequity is disempowering. So we're suggesting the need for a social model of digital disability. We're going to be researching into the lived experience of digital exclusion and what it means to be still confined into an analogue world, and the implications of this for the social work agenda in the 21st century. Now, the advantage of presenting nearer the end of a conference is that you have the opportunity to listen to other people's presentations. The disadvantage is that you constantly want to change and tweak your own presentation. As you hear points and you think, yes, I agree with that, I want to put that in, that resonates, I want to include that. On the whole, I've resisted doing that, but what I do want to finish with is a quotation that I heard from the plenary on day 2, and the subject was human rights, and the quote that I want to use is, if it's something that we would want for ourselves, then we should not be denying it to others. And I think that when it comes to digital inclusion, that's a very good point to finish on. Whoops. So just the references that we've used in the presentation. And our contact details, if anybody wants any further information about the connections between social work service users and digital exclusions, or to talk about visual impairment and the use of assistive technology or inclusive practice with digital data, please do feel free to get in touch with us. And thank you very much.
Thank you. We still have slightly less than a minute. We have a quick comment or quick questions. Any comment or questions coming from the floor? No? If not, then thanks again. Here comes